Kristen?
I'm excellent.
Oh, good.
How are you?
Good. I'm ready for Memorial Day weekend.
Memorial Day. How about we start with Memorial Day weekend Frankenstein Tea Edition?
Yes. All right. Memorial Day Frankenstein Tea Edition.
Here we are.
Welcome to Frankenstein Tea, and an early happy Memorial Day to you.
Yes, Frankenstein Tea is is a weekly program we produce here at the Aldrich. It's a way for us to give you updates and information and to share literature. I started this program during COVID, so I think that's many years ago at this point. It feels like it. And I've been so grateful that Ian took it up with me.
It's
been great.
Delightful. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. And so we have morphed it into a program that's appropriate at this time, since we're not in COVID, thank goodness. To give you updates, to see you, to meet with you. Maybe you didn't have a chance to get into the library this week. Maybe you want to know what's going on next Friday night at the Elks Club.
Hint, it's going to be a good time.
Concert. Maybe you want to know what we're talking about, so we do updates.
Yep.
And it's a read aloud program.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we also tried to make it entertaining for you as well.
Right. We're going to try to do all of that today.
Yes, indeed, and thought-provoking.
And we call it Frankenstein Tea. That's a nod to the copyright and the permissible read that Frankenstein is. And so it's a nod to the fact that we're always conscious of copyright, and we try not to break that, and we're very clear about that. This is a non-monetized program. We are librarians. Part of our job is readers advisory. And connecting people to information and to literature, and so we do that here with a nod to copyright. And the tea part is the time of day, and take a little time out with us, enjoy some tea. We need the tea while we read out loud.
We do indeed.
And
mine's almost gone already.
Mine is almost gone. Mine was good. Mine was chamomile today.
Lady Grey today.
Oh, Lady Grey.
My favorite.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I love it that you keep that stocked.
No, absolutely. I have a feeling that it's a popular staff favorite.
It might be.
Yeah.
And so it's Memorial Day.
So Monday will be Memorial Day.
Monday
so Memorial Day weekend. So we figured that would be our theme for today. So we've got a couple things to share with you. If you caught our Robert Burns episode, back in January, I think it was. Yes, you will recognize the former poet laureate of Barrie, John W. Gordon. So we are going to be revisiting A Voice of the Hills by John W. Gordon. This is from our collection, from our Vermont collection in the Vermont Room. Really great poetry.
Yeah.
And I also have it's a fairly new children's book in the children's room. The Gettysburg Address in translation, what it really means. So I'm going to be reading the Gettysburg Address and sharing that with you and talking a little bit about the Civil War. So we were discussing
Connect that for them.
Yeah, I will.
Because I didn't know this.
Yeah. So we have Veterans Day. And we have Memorial Day, and I think that a lot of people often conflate the two and get them mixed up. And Veterans Day is associated with World War I, whereas Memorial Day actually predated it, and that was closely associated with the Civil War. So it was founded a couple years after, 38? I'm sorry, 68.
68, I think was it, yeah.
1868 was founded a couple years after the Civil War, and a way of remembering and commemorating the sacrifices of all the people who lost their lives during the Civil War, the American Civil War. And at the time, that was the greatest loss of life in American history.
I read today, 2% of the population.
2% of the population, yeah.
Yeah.
So, compared with the casualties in the World Wars, I'm sure it paled in comparison, but for that time period, it was an enormous loss of life. I think maybe we'll end with the Gettysburg Address, and maybe we'll start with John W. Gordon. What do you think?
Sure. So we did our little bit of research for our thematic program today.
Yes.
And it went back to the Civil War, so we're going to do the Gettysburg Address. There was also a great book list online of books to read to celebrate Memorial Day. And so I hunted some of those up And that led us to the Red Badge of Courage, available in the library. This is the illustrated classic. We also have the Red Badge of Courage, unabridged in the young adult room. This is a classic, Norman Mailer, The Naked and the Dead. The Dead and the Naked? No, The Naked and the Dead, Norman Mailer. I just turned it this way in case you feel like picking this one up. Another one on the Memorial Day reading list. This one, Eat the Apple, contemporary nonfiction, available on our shelf. Also recommended on the list. This one was on the list, Shoot Like a Girl, contemporary nonfiction.
One woman's dramatic fight in Afghanistan in the home front. That sounds really good, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Mary Jennings Hager? Hager?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. John McCain blurbs it on the front. So, you know, and then, so those are all recommended Memorial Day reads from an online source. And then Slaughterhouse-Five was recommended by Kurt Vonnegut. And then this, you know, became slightly problematic for Ian. Because we're like, how are we going to tackle Kurt Vonnegut? Because we have to. Like, as much as I love Ray Bradbury, I love Kurt Vonnegut.
Oh, yeah.
And so there are things for us to read here. And I was telling, as I was doing my research and scouring these books, Ian, I was telling him that I had just read today that the first Memorial Day was for Union soldiers.
Right.
And it was for Union soldiers with marked graves. And there was a woman who they co-name as one of the originators of Memorial Day, because she said, really, can't we do, you know, blankets of flowers and memorials on unmarked graves, right? Like, because this was part of that whole war, right? This idea of all the unmarked graves. And that is how we got to this. That is how we got to the Poet Laureate of Barrie.
And we'll conclude today's episode with a little field trip, kind of hearkening back to our Robert Burns field trip, with a little bit of local Barrie history. So stay tuned.
Yeah. I know, that makes me feel like maybe we should read the whole thing because we're going on the field trip, but maybe not. We have a lot of things to read.
We have a lot to read, yeah.
Okay, you're going to read this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is taken from a poem called The Reunion at Gettysburg. So this was written and presented in 1913 when there were still Civil War veterans alive. Today a nation mourns her sons, alike the true and erring ones. Upon the graves of all she lays the cypress branch and laurel bays. For like in honor fell the brave beneath the north or southern stave. Cast in heroic mold was each, and both shall unborn ages teach devotion, tried in blood and flame, that consecrates the soldier's name.
It's great.
Yeah.
Great, great, great.
He was a really fine poet.
And I think are we going to read one more from here?
And he was a contemporary of Leonard Aldrich, who was the philanthropist who founded this very library. So
it's fun to think about, huh? Maybe we should meet them for Halloween.
Ah, there you go.
Okay, don't let us go off track.
So this one's called Soldier's Monument, and this was written in 1914 to aid the raising funds for a soldier's monument in Barrie, Vermont.
We're going to read this one?
Yeah, let's give it a read.
Okay. Soldier's Monument. How about glasses? The war drums beat no more to bloody fray. The march is done for both the blue and gray. The music of the fife, the cannon's roar, shall thrill the heart and stir the brain no more. The southern fields that once were dank and red are sacred urns that hold the ashes of our dead. The battle flags that floated on the breeze are locked in dusty glass with rusty keys. Is this our all, our tribute to the brave? How little, paltry, for the much they gave. Each march should have its monumental stone to keep alive the deeds our dead have done. If we would half as freely give our gold as they their blood, for rights we sacred hold, we'd blush no more to think we had forgot at what a price the nation's life was bought. Upon this city of our pride shall rest a shame, as long as we neglect the soldier's fame. The granite of our hills should turn to dust, until we make of it a shrine of trust. What kind of men are we that build for others the monuments that we refuse our brothers? Oh, let the hand forget its cunning craft that builds for them no monumental shaft. We profit in our trade by the blood they shed, and turn to gold the ashes of our dead. Awake! 'Tis duty calls to pay the debt, the sacred bond whose seal in blood was set. The finest stone one wrought with finest art will be a paltry payment on our part. A blessing to the givers it will be, to honor those who made our country free.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so that, you're right, so that's to aid in raising funds.
So when we read this beforehand in preparation, a lot of preparation planning goes into this Frankenstein tea beforehand.
Yeah. Well, despite how many mistakes I just made.
Oh, you did a great job. Yeah. But you know, we were saying to each other, it seems like there's a puzzle piece that we are missing. You know, and
yeah, that's why I was like, wait, did we decide to read this one? Because it's still confusing a bit.
Well, yeah, but I think that maybe when we go and visit the monument, maybe it'll be a little bit clearer. You know, but it sounds like maybe there was some controversy over raising the money for the monument, and maybe the expense that was going to go to the monument. And John W. Gordon was maybe it's persuasive piece. Yeah. You know, he's trying to persuade.
Yeah. I wonder if it was published somewhere, like a paper or something. You know, that is. We should talk to the Historical Society about that. We've got ourselves some homework. Yeah. So there's another episode in the making. We'll get back to you next Friday. That's very intriguing. We'll get back to you about that. I'm going to read one more. All right. You're going to end with Gettysburg Address. Yeah, that sounds great. Then we're going to do some updates. Yeah. Okay. So let me read this. So Slaughterhouse 5 does come up as a recommended read to celebrate and commemorate Memorial Day. Again, it started Civil War, and now, you know, this is Slaughterhouse 5 is about World War II, I think, Dresden. Yes, the firebombing of Dresden. Is World War II, yeah. Yep. And that book wasn't on our shelf, so... Checked out, yeah. So let's assume that. But this lovely, you know, when you find a book this big about one of your favorite authors, this is like a birthday in the library stacks today. And I went to the back because I thought there'd be an index and I could find maybe Slaughterhouse 5 in here. But instead I found the short story I'm going to read. Oh, but wait, I was going to read that thing about Slaughterhouse 5. Yeah. I was going to read one thing. It's in the gray part. It's in the gray part women. It's in the gray part war. There's the gray part war. So this is what, I think this is Dave Eggers. Let me see who wrote this. I think Dave Eggers writes this forward. I think. Oh no, JK, I don't know who that is. Well, you can check this book out here. Jerome Klinkowitz. He does the head note. Jerome Klinkowitz. From section 1, War, head note by Jerome Klinkowitz. I'm just going to read a paragraph, and then I'm going to read the last short story in this book. It's Kurt Vonnegut, Complete Stories by 7 Stories Press. Great. Yeah, 2017. This is a great book. Oh shoot, I just lost my page. All right, so this is what they say about Slaughterhouse 5. I don't know, is that, well, I guess Cat's Cradle is famous too. What's Vonnegut's most famous book, do you think? Those two. Yeah, one of those, right? Yeah. Okay. The obvious bridge between Kurt Vonnegut, the novelist, and Vonnegut, the short story writer, is war. Of his 14 novels, Slaughterhouse 5 remains his most famous and most characteristic piece of work, even though it's presumed a centerpiece. The firebombing of Dresden is inferred rather than depicted. There is nothing intelligent to say about a massacre. This book teaches us, but there is a great deal to talk about nonetheless. Yeah. All right. So I was looking for Slaughterhouse-Five. I thought there'd be an index. There's not. There's a table of contents at the beginning of the book instead. But since I went to the back first, I found this, and I'd like to share it today. Unknown Soldier by Kurt Vonnegut. It was all nonsense, of course, when they said our baby was the first one to be born in New York City into the third millennium of the Christian era at 10 seconds past midnight on January 1st, 2000. For starters, the third millennium, as countless people had pointed out, would not begin until January 1st, 2001. Planetarily speaking, the new year was already 6 hours old when our child was born, since it had begun that much earlier at the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, England, where time begins. Never mind that the numbering of years since the birth of Christ could only be approximate. The datum was so obscure. And who can say in which minute a child was born? When its head appeared? When all of it was outside the mother? When the umbilical cord was cut? Since there were many valuable prizes to be given to the city's first baby of 2000 and its parents, the chief physician in attendance, it was agreed well in advance of the contest that severing the cord should not count, since the moment could be delayed past the crucial midnight. There might be doctors all over the city with their eyes on the clock and their scissors poised, and of course with witnesses present watching the scissors, watching the clock. The winning doctor would get an all-expense-paid vacation on one of the few islands where a tourist could still feel fairly secure, which was Bermuda. A battalion of British paratroops was stationed there. Understandably, doctors might be tempted to fudge the birth time, given the opportunity. No matter what the criteria, defining the moment of birth was a lot less controversial than declaring when a fertilized ovum was a human being in the mother's womb. For the purpose of the contest, the moment of birth was the moment when the baby's eyes or eyelids were first bathed in light from the outside world, when they could first be seen by the witnesses. So the baby, which was the case with ours, would still be partly inside the mother. If she had been a breech birth, of course, the eyes would have been almost the last thing to appear. And here comes the most nonsensical aspect of the contest we won. If she had been a breech birth, or had Down syndrome, or spina bifida, or been a crack baby, or an AIDS baby, or whatever, she surely would have been disqualified for the prizes on some supposed technicality having to do with timing rather than, or so the judges would have said, her variations from so-called norms. She was, after all, supposed to symbolize how healthy and delightful the next 1,000 years were supposed to be. One guarantee by the judges was that race and religion and national origin of the parents could not possibly skew their deliberations. And it is true that I am a Native American Black, and my wife, while classified as white, was born in Cuba. But it surely did not hurt that I was head of the sociology department at Columbia University, or that my wife was a physical therapist at New York Hospital. I am certain that our baby won over several other candidates, including a newborn boy found in a trash can in Brooklyn, because we were middle class. We got a Ford station wagon and 3 lifetime passes to Disney World and a home entertainment console with a 6-foot screen and a VCR and a sound system capable of playing every sort of record or tape, and equipment for a home gymnasium, and so on. And the baby got a government bond worth $50,000 at maturity, and a bassinet and a stroller, and free diaper service, and on and on. But then she died when she was only 6 weeks old. The doctor who helped her into the world was in Bermuda at the time, and he did not hear about her death there. Her death was no more big news there or anywhere outside of New York City than her birth had been. It wasn't big news here either, since nobody but the promoters of the asinine contest and the business people who had donated the prizes took all the hoopla about her at all seriously. The blather about her representing so many wonderful things, the mingling of races in beauty and happiness, the rebirth of the spirit which had once made New York the greatest city in the world and the greatest nation in the world, and just plain peace. And I don't know what all. It seems to me now that she was like an unknown soldier in a war memorial, a little bit of flesh and bone and hair, which was extolled to the point of lunacy. Hardly anybody came to her funeral, incidentally. The TV station whose idea the contest was sent a minor executive, not even a personality, and surely not a camera crew. Who wants to watch the burial of the next 1,000 years? If television refuses to look at something, it is as though it never happened. It can erase anything, even whole countries, continents, such as Africa, one big desert now, where millions upon millions of babies with brand new 1,000 years of history looming before them starved to death. It was crib death syndrome which killed our daughter, they say. This is a genetic defect as yet, and perhaps forever, undetectable by amniocentesis. She was our first child. Ah, me.
It's very good. Kurt Vonnegut. Well done. Well read.
Very good, Kurt Vonnegut is right.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
I love that because that's the whole flip side of the veteran experience, isn't it? You know, because there is the politicization sometimes, you know?
That was very human.
Yes, and that was very human. That was like the flip side of
Yeah.
the experience, the veteran's experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so we'll have to revisit him.
Yeah, we'll have to read some
We'll
more
have to
Kurt Vonnegut.
revisit it.
Yeah.
But now we're off to the Civil War.
Yes.
Now we've done a full circle. We're back to the beginning. Memorial Day starts with the honoring of the Union soldiers.
The Union soldiers, yeah. So I'm going to read this. So this is a small excerpt from the Gettysburg Address in translation, what it really means, by K. Melchizedek Olson. Guess I should have read that beforehand. There we go. All right, so I'm going to give you a little bit of historical context, and then we'll launch into the actual speech. On November 19th, 1863, about 15,000 people gathered in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. They were there to dedicate a national cemetery. The cemetery was for soldiers who had died in the Battle of Gettysburg. The Civil War was in its third year. States from the North or Union were fighting states from the South. The Battle of Gettysburg was the first battle fought on Union ground. Several thousand soldiers died on both sides. The dedication ceremony included music, prayers, and a 2-hour speech by Edward Everett, a famous speaker. Near the end of the program, President Abraham Lincoln stood to say a few words. The audience was silent, straining to hear the president's words. In 3 short minutes, Lincoln's speech was finished. He sat down. The photographer didn't even have time to take a picture. Lincoln had spoken only a few hundred words, but those few words became one of the most famous speeches ever given in the United States. Today, there are 5 known copies of Lincoln's Gettysburg Address written in his own handwriting. No one is sure which one he used at Gettysburg. Each of the 5 copies is slightly different, but they all contain the same message. The Union must be preserved. Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who gave their lives here, that this nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate. We cannot consecrate. We cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work, which they who fought here have thus so far nobly advanced. It is for us, rather, to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave their last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. So there we are. There we have it.
Wow.
So it's a very clever piece of oratory and speech writing. I mean, 3 minutes. He was able to make it very concise, and he.
And the guy before him spoke for 2 hours.
For 2 hours.
And
yeah.
didn't say that by any means, right? I mean, I don't know that.
Well, I don't know. We're not quoting that.
No.
But some of those lines have become just so famous that you hear them all the time, you know, in speeches. That government for the people, by the people, for the people, of the people, by the people, for the people.
Yeah, shall not perish.
Yeah. Some of those like lines have just become so ingrained, you know, in our
and it's
political
great.
speech and oratory and
and it's great for us to share and to remember that they came from the Gettysburg Address.
Yeah. And you know, we talked about that previous poem that you read by Gordon as being a persuasive piece, and this is a persuasive piece as well. Yeah. Because in it, President Lincoln is not only dedicating this cemetery and commemorating those who fell there, but he's also telling them, this is 1863. This is like the worst part of the Civil War. And he's telling them to stay the course.
Stay the course. Yeah. And it's been brutal. It's been brutal at Gettysburg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think on that note, we are going to go out and take a little field trip, our first field trip in some time, and go and take a look at the Civil War monument here in Barrie.
It is.
Yeah.
We are.
What do you think?
Should I just tell them what we were alluding to
Please.
before? Because we will get in such trouble if we don't.
Oh, yes.
So we were teasing you before about next Friday night, and that is a Rock City concert at the Elks Club. I believe it is 7 to 9.
7 to 9.
7 to 9. It is by donation at the door, and all of your donations, all of the proceeds, Rock City takes nothing from that door money is to the children's program of the Aldridge Public Library.
Thank you very much, Rock City.
Yeah, really, what an honor and so much fun. We're so excited.
So that's all going to go to benefiting probably mostly our summer program.
Yeah.
So it'll go to the kids this summer. So
So come out to the Elks Club a week from tonight. Have a great Memorial Day. Read all the books we just told you about.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Reread the Gettysburg Address. Join us on our little field trip. But we do hope to see you in 1 week at the Elks Club for a Rock City concert. I'm really looking forward to it.
Me too. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we'll see you there. But for now, let's take a walk.
Let's come with us.
Come with us.
Come with us. Okay, so we made it across the street from the library, the Aldridge Public Library in downtown Barrie in the Historic District. We're in City Park. Is that right?
That's correct.
This is City Park. And we found the Civil War Veterans Memorial in City Park here. We read the poem by Gordon about this. We're still a little confused. Was he raising money for it? Was he making a comment that this wasn't very fancy? It's interesting. We are going to have to go to the historical, where are we going?
The History Center, the Historical Society.
All of those. Right up the road there. And we're going to ask some friends up there what's going on. But we did want to point out Leonard Aldridge here. This is a veteran of the Civil War. He is the founder of the library that we work out of. We are forever grateful for him. We speak his name daily. And here he is, a veteran. And on this memorial, we have two designations. People that served, I guess there's three designations. People that served, people that died in service, and people that received the Congressional Medal of Honor. The 1 star is died in service, and 2 stars is Congressional Medal of Honor.
And it really is interesting. It is, it really is dwarfed by the, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
It really is dwarfed by the more popular one over there, the bigger monument, I guess.
Yeah.
Youth Triumphant.
What could also have been of what he was saying. We really don't know what Gordon is making a reference to.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But although I think this is lovely.
I think it is quite lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So come and check this out if you ever get a chance, on the far side of the Berry City Park.
Thanks so much for joining us for Frankenstein Tea. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
That is our episode of Frankenstein Tea. We want you to stay safe, keep reading, and enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye for now.